Thank you very much for the invitation for me to interact with such a distinguished audience. What I'm going to share with you is my learning experience. It's about learning beyond knowledge and skills. I'm a policy person. I work on policies, and policies usually refer to macro systems and big data nowadays. But I come to understand that the ultimate aim of education is to prepare the younger generation for the future. Do you agree? But however, the core business of education is learning. Do you also agree? So what I'm trying to do is to understand what is future and what is learning. I think we are facing two realities. The first reality is society has changed. It's changing quickly to a large extent. It's changing to something is no longer recognizable. The second is we know much better about learning. There's an emerging science of learning which underpins pedagogy with the frontier sciences of today. I have to apologize that because of the translation, I've lost all the animations. You see all the sentences at one time. Learning is a human instinct. Babies learn by themselves, but education is not. Education is a system of learning designed for human beings. And because of that, education is always underpinned with economic, political, social, cultural, spiritual conventions of the time. And therefore, that means the design could be obsolete. And my understanding at this point is the actual system of education has come to this point to understand that what belongs to the past and that has to be changed, and we know little about what will be in the future. At least we have to know what has changed. I give you a few pictures. This is Myanmar, a Buddhist school. Similar schools are in Cambodia and Laos. In Laos, 40% of the young children are studying in Buddhist schools. The curriculum is Buddhist scripts, but then also language, mathematics, English, science, almost like a school. And they actually graduate from those schools and can go to universities. The concern in the Buddhist school is about the person. Although they have the curriculum, it's not about human resources. Then, this is perhaps more familiar with you. This is in Uzbekistan. To every mosque, there is a madrasa. Half of it are classrooms and half of it are residential places. Again, they study Quran, but also Uzbek, English, mathematics, science. Although they have the same curriculum, but the concern is about people. They are not trained as human resources, although they will become human resources sooner or later. But the function of the school is not about human resources. It's not an economic instrument. However, I have the opportunity to visit one school in the United States. It's called Sturbridge. It's a town that lives the life of 1836 in Massachusetts. The same costume, the same food, the same activities. And I play a student and was there, attended a class. And after the class, I asked the teacher, why are these young kids coming to you? She said, it's simple, because they want to have a job in Boston. Job. It's about job. And therefore, they have to write and read and calculate. So that's why you have reading, writing, and arithmetic. So my understanding is up till now, most of the education systems are working under an economic discourse. Preparation for industrial manpower, turning human beings into human resources. If I can be a little bit unkind, I would say they are torturing young people until they confess to the labor market. Because if you don't abide by the system, you're a failure, no matter how good you are otherwise. You have to pass the examinations. But society has changed. Let me show you. Now, this is one thing. It should come out one by one. This is my friend, John. He graduated in 1971 in electrical engineering, and he was appointed to the government department of electrical engineering. He became a very prominent leader in the civil service, to the extent that at some point, a lot of license was signed by him. And he chose to retire 55, and then now enjoying early retirement. Right? So it was a time where there's one credential, one set of skills, one job, one occupation, one organization. But this is no longer true. Very, very few cases are like this. Extremely few. Australia in 2016 had an estimate that an average citizen would be likely to take on 15 jobs. 15 jobs. And earlier in UK, 2006, there's another forecast that people would take on, each person would take on 13 jobs. I couldn't believe it. So I turned to the Department of Labor, US, it was 10.4 jobs. It's not only change of jobs. 2002, there was a statistic in US that each individual was likely to take on 4.3 occupations. So what is now happening is you have human resources which is very diverse. You have human beings which are very diverse, 2 continents. However, they are connected only by a very narrow bridge. Subjects, a few subjects. If you can't pass those subjects, you can't smoothly sail into society. So it's a different story. May I ask a question which concerns privacy? I ask this question everywhere. How many pairs of shoes do you have at home? How many pairs of shoes? I was asking this question in Hong Kong, and one school principal raised her hand. She said, "You asked the wrong question. You should ask how many shoe cupboards do we have?" What I'm pointing at is it's basically an oversupplying society. When you have so many pairs of shoes, are they all the same? Do they serve the same purpose? No. Therefore, production is no longer to satisfy needs, which was the basics of economics in 30, 40 years ago. And because of that, mass production is a poison for the commercial sector. If you produce Louis Vuitton handbags, 1 million, who would buy them? Right? So it's no longer mass production. It's what they call less of more, less quantity, more variety. And because of that, organizations, pyramidal, huge organizations, division of labor, layers, bureaucracy is gradually disappearing. They are giving way to small, fragile, flat, loose, one-stop units. Units are getting smaller and smaller. Now, because of that, the commitment of the organizations to their employees is very much reduced. And therefore, we cannot expect the young people to be so committed to their organization. Loyalty is a different story now. Why am I talking about all this? It has nothing to do with education. No, it has. Because nowadays, young people, when they come to after graduation, for example, no, this is what was raised by the president this morning. Study work mismatch. In my own university, with the exception of medicine, the main mismatch between study and work is the mainstream. Even in engineering, 35% of our engineering graduates never enter engineering. Let alone psychology, history, biology, they all end up in, for example, commercial sector or financial sector. The other way around, KPMG, one of the big fours of accounting firms, has a headline in Hong Kong newspaper, "We don't target at accounting graduates." But even if the first job is a match, they frequently change jobs, change occupations. And many of young people, particularly able people, don't want to be employees, don't want to be employed. They start their own business. Some of them earn in a job for 2 years and then go to Baltics, another 2 years, Caucasus. Right? They travel all the places that retirees travel. And some of them have multiple portfolios. There are many, many jobs at one time. Some of the freelancers, they're serving many employers at one time. But there are also, fortunately, unfortunately, intentional unemployment. Young people who prefer to stay home, not taking a job for years and years and years until nobody will hire them. It's not a big number, but it's happening almost in every society in the world. What I'm getting at, younger people now, people who belong to the 21st century, their concept of a job, their concept of a career, their notion of success, of happiness, have all changed. It's not due to because they are wrong, but environment, society has changed, and they are no longer willing to commit to a particular job or particular organization. My question is our education preparing for such a future? Is our education preparing to address such a future? So this is a little bit of my comparison. It's not only about jobs. What's happening in the jobs is quite different. In a one-stop unit, it could be a task force in an investment bank, it could be a deal team in a commercial firm, and so on and so forth. Even at the front line, people have to face the clients directly. They have to design the solutions at the spot. They have to face innovations, and they have to face risks. They have to face challenges of ethical issues, and they have to resist moral temptations. Is our education preparing them for that? This is my genuine question. They will face such a situation. They have to learn anywhere, anytime, just in time, different things in different ways, non-stop, lifelong. Therefore, learning becomes essential. Then my question is, have we really put learning onto the center stage of education? Education is not always about learning, but learning is so essential. But learning is not only for jobs. It's not only an economic activity. They have family lives, leisure lives, cultural lives, and so on and so forth. They have to survive. My mother is 99. She's no part of human resources. Nobody will expect her to be part of human resources, but she has to learn. A lot to learn. So society is different, and therefore education has to be different. Now, there are attempts to revise education. This is 21st century skills. You might have heard this a long time ago. It's about communications, life and career skills, information media, and so on and so forth, skills. However, when it came to Singapore, they don't like the word skills. They thought partly it's semantics. Skills is something very technical, very narrow. We want competencies, right? And they start not with performance in work. They start with people. What kind of people do you want? And they have competent persons, self-directed learners, active contributors, concerned citizens, and so on and so forth. They start with people. Japan started with life because they are working against bullying, suicide, and also non-employment. Taiwan, you have circles and circles, almost the same pattern. Start with people. And this is 2016. In the same year, I'm quite sure they don't talk to each other at that time. Mainland China has this, which is again about people. So this is the trend, moving into concentrating on human beings rather than human resources. If you have strong human beings, of course you will have strong human resources, but not the other way around. This is in Korea. I like it very much. A refined person. How admirable. And so it's moving from skills, which is about performance, to competencies, is about capability, to quality of people. In Hong Kong, 2016, 17 of us organized an advocacy group, and we call ourselves Education 2.1. And we think that we should aim at people's quality. Capability, which is about knowledge and skills. Attributes, which is otherwise in US called soft skills. And values. We think values is always missing. The person could be very strong in knowledge and skills. They could be very strong in attributes, in personal relations, and so on and so forth. It could be a bad guy. It could be a bad guy. And values is so essential. Because of that, I turn my attention also to learning. I'm not a learning scientist, but these are my summaries. Learning is meaning-making, it's human interpretation. Learning is not transmission of knowledge. It's understanding through experiences, experience-essential learning. I'll elaborate that in the workshop tomorrow. But you will see that there's different parts of this people's quality would require different ways of learning. Knowledge and skills is largely provided by formal curriculum. Attributes, you need experience. It's not that you have a course on innovation and become innovative. You have a course on human relations, they have very good human relations. But values is even more tricky. Family influence, peers influence, teachers' role model, school culture, all matter. But I have to say that all these are now mitigated by the media. A lot of our young people gather their knowledge, develop their value system because of the social media. They have a lot of small circle consensus, and they think that is the universal value. I'll end with the following pictures. Unfortunately, I may not have the time to show them one by one because of the translation. It's overlapping. Climate, there should be 3 slides. Man-made accidents, epidemics, old and new, stock market, unpredictable financial crisis, social unrest, war, and because of war, refugees. And then scandals. There were 3 pictures behind, but they are all ladies, Korea, Brazil, Thailand. I was scolded in Australia, why all women? So I put in 2 men. Fighting in parliaments, Taiwan, Japan, Venezuela, terrorists, fake emotions of independence, what I would call unwanted results of democratic processes. And now, the new thing coming in is what I would call a new form of world war, the trade war. So I'm just repeating them in words. But all this will not go away in 20, 30 years' time. You cannot imagine that suddenly, no, every day, these are not my creation. You turn on the television every morning, you're bound to see all this. It's difficult to imagine one day you get up, you turn on television, there's no terrorism, there's no financial crisis, there's no refugees problem. So we have to live with them. But what about our younger generation? They have to survive, but we also want them to thrive. They have to lead, otherwise the world will be the same. They should be the ones to change the world. My question is again the same. Is education preparing our younger generation to be like this? Nonetheless, there are emerging trends. I did this for UNESCO. There's a spectrum for 10 countries producing their country report about what they do and what they did in education in the realm of social and emotional learning. And they come to this hierarchy. And I have tried to analyze them, but this is rather academic. Anyway, there's a trend. People begin to understand that education, these are not manpower. These are your children. You want them to be good children, good people, and then human resource will follow. Another example is in Hong Kong. All of a sudden, with no government policy, with no resources, we discovered every school has about 10 projects, 9.8, where the school partner with an outside body, it could be a commercial body, an NGO, or just any other firms or organizations, to do things which is not in the curriculum. So students are experiencing a lot which is beyond the curriculum. I think this is, and it cannot be rely only on school. If we will talk about next generation schools, I think schools will play the role of a hub of learning rather than an encompassed instrument for learning. This is what I said. So this is why I know, after all, industrial society, we favor things that are analytic, regulated, structured, clear-cut, uniform, and so on and so forth. But in the post-industrial society, I don't know what to call it. I wouldn't call it knowledge society. I wouldn't call it post, then holistic, flexible, loose, fuzzy, plural, divergent, and so on and so forth. It's a different way of thinking, a different paradigm. And education has to follow that change. Thank you.